Let's try to do this when I'm not muted. Hi there. For those of you that are joining me, thank you so much for joining me live. I am the architect. I build out seemingly serendipitous perfect days and wild adventures. Think wildly elaborate scavenger hunts. For those of you that have been on my channel quite a bit and have seen some of the live streams I do, which I try to do every Wednesday, sometimes I'm not able to for reasons like last Wednesday. I actually flew home to surprise my mother for her birthday, for her 74th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And socially distanced, of course, I'm actually still quarantining in what used to be my old bedroom, where behind me is a door to the bathroom that also leads out to the backyard. So I've been hanging out with my parents all week in the backyard. Just got a precautionary COVID test, and so waiting for that to come back. Oh, hey, Chris, thank you so much for joining. I always love having you here. So basically what I'm doing today is I'm going to tackle a couple questions that popped up on Reddit. If you have any questions for me about a specific adventure you're trying to build or just anything, pop it in the chat. I will try to get to it either right now or at the end. Also, if you're watching this retroactively and you're just here because you want to hear about adventure number 73, I will put a timestamp in the comments or in the show notes that skip straight ahead. So I'm going to hit a couple questions now, and then I'm going to break down adventure number 73, which was the last Reddit Secret Santa adventure I did. Have all the photos and a couple videos up, and we'll kind of walk through it piece by piece. And then we'll also, I'll talk about what I did and then also why I did it and kind of the purpose and reasoning to hopefully help inspire. James Elliott, thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing okay on your side of the world. Yeah, if you want to chime in, tell me where you're coming from. I would love to see and hear you guys. And otherwise, I will get started with the first question that popped up, this was when I posted about the Grand Hunt 3, I believe. So if you watch actually the last stream I did, I talked about large group games. And one of the questions I got when I was talking about this is, how do you make sure that groups don't get lost? And this is in the case of big group games where you have 3, 5, 10 groups. And the easiest way is with a treasure map, because it gives you almost like the boundaries of the game, because no logical person would... Wow, Melbourne. Here from Melbourne. There's actually like a decent amount of people from Australia. I chatted with a gentleman from Melbourne who is starting, unless you're the one that I chatted with, and then, well, we're doing great already. But yeah, so go Australia. I need to get out there really badly. It's just, kind of expensive, a long way to go and all that. So if anybody wants to give me a place to stay once the pandemic's over, I am there. Anyway, a treasure map is the easiest way to make sure groups don't get lost. Also, especially with large group games, I recommend erring even more on the side of ease. Usually when you're doing these things, it's a competition. So worst case scenario, some team just kind of crushes everyone because it was a little too easy. But I tend to find that with group games, no matter how easy you make it, you're still going to have one team that just struggles, just no matter what. So it's tricky. Well, I'll have to figure out how to pronounce Melbourne. Melbourne? I think it's Melbourne. We'll find out. Anyway, question number 2. You do this as a job? Yes, I do. On the Constructed Adventure subreddit, I'm there as a help, but one of my big rules is no shameless self-promotion, like hire me to do this, hire me to do that, because it kind of pisses me off when I see that on Reddit, in the entrepreneurial subreddits of like, I'm trying to figure out how to do YouTube. And someone's like, I know how to do YouTube. And I'm like, cool, you got any tips? And they're like, pay me. And I'm like, why are you even here? I'm not going to pay you. So yes, I do this as a job. I started it as a side hustle back in December 2015 when the first Reddit Secret Santa gift exchange I did blew up. I did it as a side hustle until October 2017, where I jumped ship. Then I just traveled all over the world doing this, just kind of built and built and built. Pandemic hit. Wings got clipped, and I pivoted over to consulting, which I'd done a little bit of already, but now it's pretty much all I do, as well as doing the YouTube channel and having a Patreon. Shameless plug. If you do like this and you want to support me, you can go to patreon.com/constructedadventures. And I would love to have money, please. Money, please. Anyway, scooting right along. I am very excited as soon as I get the old arm jab, and I'll be able to fly again and do a bunch of adventures. And yes, Chris, you nailed it. Self-promotion on Reddit's rough, especially if you're a mod. And I don't like it. I think Reddit is really special because there's kind of a it's kind of a place you go where there's just lots of people giving information. And I was, I started because of Reddit. I've had a lot of success because of Reddit, and I don't want to break that almost unspoken rule, especially in my own sub. It's really important to me that the Constructed Adventures subreddit isn't about me, it's about adventures. And so I just love seeing people post some stuff, and I recommend heading over there. There's some cool ones. There's a great NSFW Valentine's Day post where a woman did like a sexy escape room adventure for her husband. Definitely not safe for work, but extremely creative, hilarious, and raunchy. It was so good. Okay, on to question 3. How do you compare this to the mystery escape room scene? And I thought this question was so good because there are so many similarities, but also some very, very big differences. The similarities are obvious, where you have puzzles and you have kind of an immersive experience, and sometimes you're using actors and you've created this kind of separate world, right? The alternate reality that you get in the term alternate reality game. But there's a lot of differences, and I have trouble sometimes with people that reach out that are like, well, I just want to build an escape room outdoors for 8 hours. And it's like, no, you don't. That would be awful. Like, do you imagine being in an escape room for longer than like maybe 2? I think the longest one that I know of is 2. And I've seen on the escape room subreddit people talking about it, and it's just like you don't do it because just the user experience. Like, you're not going to find people that want it. A couple people maybe, but if you're trying to do a business and have people come in and out the door, very rarely you're going to find someone that wants to do an 8-hour escape room, and now you have to charge for 8 hours of content to one person versus 8 people that each get 1 hour of content. So that's the big one. A lot of the puzzles, and I call them gambits, but basically ways to propel players along, are very different because they have to be more detailed or more specific, or they're done specifically to the space, versus an escape room where you're like in a room, right? Like, you're not going to just like, oh, there's an actor in the corner that I haven't seen. What's up, Anthony? Thank you so much for joining. Once again, if James actually just let me know, it is Melbourne. I'm going to forget that, and I'm going to mess it up next week. So be ready for that, everybody. But to go back to this, yeah, it's very different in a sense where I like to call myself an event planner. I sometimes I'll use the term experience design because the foundation of these adventures is the experience. And to that end, I've done adventures that have had 0 puzzles, where it's just like you go here and something just kind of happens and plays out. And it's fun and it's delightful. And it's delightful not necessarily because it didn't have a puzzle, but just because it was. And so if you're going to build an adventure, approach it from that sense. Don't approach it like puzzles first, because they're kind of the 3rd or 4th step. A couple more questions and we'll get to the breakdown. Okay. Do you ever wish someone would set up a game for you? Oh my God, yes. So badly. And I did one, when I went to Denver. There was a gentleman that made like a secret agent theme, and he was like, can you beta test this for me? And it was super fun. And then he was kind of building it up, and then the pandemic hit, so I think it sidelined. And then I also played the game from Cat and Canary, who I'll actually talk about because they helped me during this the Reddit Secret Santa one that I just did. That was very heist and really fun. But I've never had anyone, save for like my mom when I was a kid, build something specifically for me for like a special occasion. And I get it. It's intimidating, right? I usually do it for other people, but maybe I'll get one someday. Fingers crossed. Okay, 2 more left. And once again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it in the chat and I will grab it. My husband's birthday is coming up and he's already requested no adventure. How do I get a quick and easy divorce? I love this question. This is from our user who goes by Miss Jules, I believe, on the subreddit. And she's just wonderful. As well as you, FIUJ and Chris Pike. I see you guys. You're there and I really appreciate you because I got so tired of posting 99% of the content on my subreddit. This is really funny and I thought this was worth illustrating. There are people that love building these things. And honestly, if you're watching this, you're either friend or family that I asked you to come watch, or you're interested in building an adventure. And it goes back to that first tenet where it's all about the player experience. And sometimes we get so caught up in our creative ideas and think about what we want done to us that we don't think about what others might want. And kind of to that end, to go back to the previous question of, do I want a game set up for me? Yes, but I don't think I would want something super puzzly. I don't really need it. I like to kind of self-exclaim that I'm not great at puzzles. If you've seen some of the interviews I've done with very clever puzzle makers, like I kind of struggle a little bit. So it's all about that. And the answer that I gave her on Reddit was, it's okay for people to not want an adventure. There are people that just don't like surprises, or people that need a break. They could be kind of taxing throughout the day. And then the other thing is to think about different ways to do it. And the example I gave her is maybe for his birthday, instead of, a bunch of puzzles and a bunch of things, it's just a wax sealed envelope that, he wakes up and you're gone, and there's a wax sealed envelope that sends him to his favorite shop, and something's been picked out for him at the front counter. And they're waiting for him, and they give him that. And then it heads to a restaurant where, an order's already ready with food. And then to like a friend's backyard, where the friend's got like a case of beer, and they're hanging out with a little note that says like, I'll come pick you up whenever you're ready. So it's not, puzzly and crazy, but it's still like, man, if somebody did that for me, I'd be elated. It'd be a great experience. So really, really think about that too. And then I'm sure you could get in line with divorces because, everyone's getting divorced right now in the pandemic. I got a wonderful comment from my mom because I just did an adventure for my brother remotely for his birthday. He's the kind of person that I think if I told him like, oh yeah, I'm going to do an adventure for you, he'd be like, I don't want it. But then like once he's on it, he's having fun. There are those people too. So kind of read between the lines, but definitely err on the side of fun. Great comment. Yeah, Chris. Sorry, I didn't actually read this before. Let me head to my nice little blank questions, and I'll pop this thing up here. I'm doing this with one monitor, and I don't have a mouse or a keyboard or anything. I'm just on a laptop with my microphone that my dad was nice enough to give me. If experience comes for puzzles, what are some simple experiences that more people should incorporate in adventures? Wow, really wish I'd popped this up before I gave that previous example. That's it. The go somewhere and wait for further instructions experience is really freaking cool, and I don't think it's given it enough weight, because just the idea of like being told to go into a town square and sit on the bench and wait for further instructions, and now your mind is just going nuts because like you don't know, like, is that lady walking the dog? Is she part of it? Is the dog part of it? Is that like baby part of it? Is the store owner part of it? And then it opens you up as the creator where you can have yourself there. You can have an actor there come up and have a whole scene. You can have a friend give them a call and tell them where to go next. You can have a video pop up on their phone and tell them where to go next. So not only is it a cool experience, it also gives you like 4 different options that you can go with, right? To do this whole thing. You could do a whole flash mob if you wanted to, but it's just, that one's a great one of like an experience first. And that is just going somewhere and telling them to wait for further instructions. And that's kind of what the whole adventure is. Just the sheer thought of not knowing what happens next is exciting. And when you're blindsided by this adventure, you don't know what happens next ever. And so every single step is exciting. And so you don't necessarily need puzzles to make it more exciting. That being said, the dopamine hit you get when you beat puzzles feels real good. So just keep that in mind. Got one more question. Ooh, this is so good. James, I see you from Melbourne. Pricing. How do you earn a full-time living doing this? Do you mind sharing how you provide appropriate value to the client, but also keep the roof over your head? This is great. And I actually had a conversation with a gentleman who reached out, who hopefully might be like a protege, who's starting something as well. And pricing is tricky because, food and rent is awesome, but it's not like, trying to think of a pretty established industry, like a photographer, right? A lot of photographers have pretty similar rates. It's become pretty standard. So like if I call 10 photographers in Portland, I'm going to get a pretty decent like idea. Some might be much more expensive, some might be less, but that also goes into scarcity and how booked out you are. If you're building an adventure that can be recycled and run by 20 people all in the same day, it's a very different price than paying me and having me come out. And so I basically charge a flat rate and then whatever it costs on top. My flat rate varies based on how available I am, sometimes how much I want to do the adventure, what the size of the project is. It's very different if somebody's coming to the Pacific Northwest where I live, or if I'm flying halfway across the world. Like, it's a lot more time. The other side is just hourly. I put an hourly rate and then I stick to it. And once again, that hourly rate changes based on what my availability is. If I'm booked out for 6 or 7 months straight, like I might as well just jack up my prices because like worst case scenario, I lose a couple potential clients 6 months down the road, but now I have 6 months to find new ones. And so it's just economics. It's supply and demand. I always like to go with kind of like the Birkin bag method. It's why my rates were quite cheap in the beginning because I just wanted to book out. I just wanted to be busy. And the Birkin bag method is, if you're familiar, and any ladies into fashion might be, but the Birkin bag, which is by Hermes, I'm just pronouncing things poorly all over the place, but it's essentially the most expensive handbag in the world. Most of the time it retails at like 15 to 20 grand starting, and then it can get up to like $500,000. But if you go into Hermes and you're like, I would like to buy a Birkin bag, their immediate answer is going to be, sorry, we're sold out. We don't have any. And that's a lie. They do. They have tons in the back, but you have to do this whole dance. You have to know someone or get in, or you kind of have to work to be able to get this, even if you can afford it. And then by the time you get it, you're like, yes, I'm going to spend $20,000 on a bag because I've been working for, months to get it. Same thing with me, where when people reach out, the first question is, can I accept them as a client? And then like, kind of, do I want to accept him as a client? And after that, then once we're at pricing, like they're already sold. And the second half is having a good product. I love what I do, and I think I'm very good at it. And people that have done my adventures would say the same. And so that helps too, that it's kind of a one of a kind experience. There aren't very many people that are doing it. There are more people that should. It's worth it. That's the other thing, is most of the time people finish these adventures and they're like, dude, you're not charging enough. And then I'm like, well, it's really tough to display this type of feeling that you guys just got before the price tag and let you know that it's worth it. So some of it just comes with like sales, being good at selling yourself, just getting really excited about what you do. And you can see this excitement. I love doing what I do, and that helps as well. All right. What would you consider your typical client experience? Anthony, I can kind of get started. So do you mean like my typical client is like the typical person that reaches out to hire me? And then when you say experience, do you mean like the adventure that I do? I can start with client. And this is actually one of the reasons why I try to keep my rates a little bit low, because I like working with normal people. I've done adventures for like really, really wealthy clients, and it can be a little bit difficult because expectations are sometimes tough to meet. I like to get the client that is, has money to spend, obviously, because if you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a single day, you have money to spend, but also understand kind of the gravity of the day. So most of the time it's like a marriage proposal or like a 30, 40, 50th birthday or like a 20th wedding anniversary, where it's like, it's a big day that we want to make bigger, and they've saved a little bit for it and they're kind of working with me and they're really excited. That's like my favorite client, is the one that comes in this like a partner. Because I have some people that reach out and they just want to throw a bunch of money on it and like just not even do anything. But it's more fun to be able to like bounce ideas off the client as I build it and make sure that they're okay with it and get their take on things and have their input. Some people are really, really creative. I've seen that with consultations clients I've had, where I have a consultation client where all they need is a little bit of spark and they can run with it. And I don't make as much money because I charge hourly, but that's totally okay. It's really cool to come back at the second call and they're like, okay, I went down the rabbit hole and now I've got this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. And so, yeah, I love working with just like people that are excited to do this. I will work with corporations quite a bit. That's a little bit different. It's kind of nice sometimes because they're just like, this is our budget, just take all the money and we don't care as long as like 80% of people have fun. Like, okay, I can do that. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, I think I had one or two more questions from Reddit. Already got that one. Any tips on how to make an adventure look or feel more professional? Yeah, this is a big one for me because presentation is everything. And a lot of it is just, it's practice. To kind of go with one of the mottos for Disney is always plus it. Like if you go to Disneyland, it's kind of perfect, like they've worked so hard to hone this experience and like make it, as amazing as possible, and everything down from like they've measured the distance of like garbage cans and stuff, like stuff that you just wouldn't think about because they put so much thought. But it's really about putting a ton of thought in it. And then practice. I had a phone job when I was doing this part time, and I would sit on the phones getting yelled at by clients, and I would just like practice hand lettering. And I would write the same letter 100 times, then I'd go to the next letter and write B 100 times. And, practice writing, wax sealed envelopes. Oftentimes I'll come up with a great idea and then like, all right, going to use this from now on. It's the difference between like a lot of stuff we have already, like cryptexes just look great, right? This just looks professional. It's just $50, right? But if you want to go with that other nice one that I show off all the time, that's $300. So sometimes it's with budget too. That helps make things more professional. Okay. If you have any other questions or anything, by all means, don't hesitate to pop them in. But now we are going to talk about adventure number 73. And this was called Restoring the Tavern. I'll get started here. I hope that you can still hear me. Everything looks good. Cool. So to scoot back a little bit, this was for Reddit Secret Santa. Every year I sign up for the Reddit Secret Santa gift exchange, and I, whoever I get, I usually fly out to them and I send them on a ridiculous treasure scavenger hunt adventure. I look forward to it every year because, I don't know, it's a fun experience. It's obviously like promotional for me, but like, it's fun to do an adventure where there's zero expectations. Nobody's hired me. There's no money in it. It's all my own. And so this was really fun. This guy, the big question on the Reddit gifts was like, how was your 2020? Where like most people were like, it's not good. His father actually passed away earlier in the year. It wasn't COVID that I know of. He had been sick for a while, and he had mentioned like it was just unfortunate that like they couldn't send him off. They couldn't send his father off because everybody's got to be quarantined. Nobody's flying out for a funeral. No one's even holding a funeral right now just because like you don't get people together. And so I decided very early on, like this has to be like for his father. And a couple of the backgrounds of this gentleman is he played a lot of tabletop games. And I play tabletop games too because tabletop games are super fun. And tabletop is like any type of, longer term board game. Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like the easiest tabletop game you can talk about, but there's thousands of them. So I sent him this in the mail, and it was a giant fluffy 20-sided die. And then they actually rolled the die, and the first roll they got was a D20. This was with it. It said 2020 has been rough, but we can end on a high note. December 19th. Be ready. You'll need this. More information soon. Sincerely, the architect. I had already corresponded with him via the chat because I'm not going to just completely blindside somebody with this. Some people don't want an adventure like we already talked about earlier, and that's okay. So he knew a little bit. Most people, despite the fact that like when you go on the Constructed Adventure or the Secret Santa subreddit, they're like, oh, Bill Gates, the architect, there's all this, but there's plenty of people that just have never heard of me, and that's fine. There's like 100,000 people that do this every year. Not everyone's heard of me. And so it was a little bit of making sure he was prepared for that. And then we head to the second package. So he had, he got that first one. They rolled the nat 20 and he posted it. And so I was like, oh, we got to do something with that because like nat 20. So the next weekend I'd actually driven up because I lived just a couple hours away to scout for the weekend. Stayed in a little Airbnb, trying to stay as social distance as possible. And I dropped this off at his front desk. It was like a little box. And inside of it, I had a note that said nat 20 because that's what he rolled in the previous one. And it said, not content to stay in one place, Stanley, who was his father, embarked on his final adventure, which is kind of a metaphor for him passing away. Since then, Stanley's Tavern has fallen into disrepair. A few magical items have gone missing. Lucky for you, a few of the tavern patrons, will help you find them. Wow, I did not write that very well. Anyway, it's time for a quest. It's time to restore the tavern. You'll find the D20 of Destiny, and it looks like your perception check was a nat 20. Here's what you see. Your party is standing in the tavern, but not just any old tavern. This place was run by Stanley the Great. Stanley was one of the most well-loved adventurers in the land. After years of travel and treasure hunting, he opened the most successful taverns in the realm. Head to the next scene. basically I wanted to reward him every time he like rolled. I wanted consequence for bad rolls and rewards for good rolls, and so trying to add as much flavor as possible. And then this basically says your adventure begins at 10 a.m. sharp tomorrow. Eat breakfast early, yada yada. Just giving that, setting the tone. It's really really important to like basically give information to your players, because some people don't. They're just like, all right, go do this thing, and they're like, wait, do I need flip flops, or like do I have to wear tennis shoes? Can I wear heels, flip flops, anything like that? So this was kind of the. Let me make sure I have this in order. Oh, I do not. Let me start here. Oh, maybe I do. Gotta find if I put these in order. Yeah. As you stand in Stanley's Tavern, one of the oldest patrons waves you over. If you're looking to restore the tavern to its former glory, you'll need to complete a series of quests. There are 5 lost relics you'll need to locate, the first 4, and then you can summon the grand relic, he whispered. Before you begin your first quest, here there are some basic guidelines to remember. Also keep in mind, I built this thing in like half a week because Reddit like shortened its timeline, and man, that really turned the screws on me. And so it starts with... Sorry, I gotta find the rights. There we go. And these are like the rules. And I do this for a lot of adventures that I run, where it's like, obviously I always wear a mask. Some of the stuff seems really self-explanatory, but it's not. Adventure number 17, the Margarita Madness, was literally margarita themed. And they all knew it was margarita themed. And most of them still didn't bring their state IDs. And you're just like, how? And so it is one of those things where it's like, you just sometimes have to spell it out. Most of the time, people understand that if you're going to go outside in a pandemic, you should wear a mask. But, you know, the first time you don't write that is the first time they just like decide to drive 2 hours to their starting location and then don't have a mask, right? Number 2 is document every aspect of the day. Otherwise, the heathens of Reddit will go nuclear. That's just like a little fun thing. Also, a lot of times people forget to take pictures. And it's really, really important to have photos, especially of a Reddit Secret Santa adventure. And it's really kind of a bummer if they miss something. All the things that cost money have been covered. That's kind of important, just to let them be a little bit at ease, so they're not like, oh God, he's going to send us to lunch and we're going to have to pay, and I don't have any money right now because of this and this and this. None of the relics are extremely far. All quests should be done by sunset. That's basically an idea to give him an idea of the timeline. Do we need to pack snacks? Do we need to pack an overnight bag? Like all that type of stuff. You'll be outside for prolonged bouts. Dress accordingly. It was a little bit rainy because they're in Seattle, so of course it was rainy. But it's like, you know, bring a rain shell. Have fun. And then finally, if you ever notice something canonically off, a wizard did it. And that's like a little fun dig or a little fun nod to a Simpsons quote where Xena was being interviewed by the comic book guy and he kept like pointing out tiny little inaccuracies. And so it's like, if something ever doesn't make sense, a wizard did it. Then finally, at any point, if you get snagged, just roll the D20 of Destiny, take a picture and send it to my phone number. RNG, random number generation, i.e. luck, will dictate the answer. When you're ready to begin, open the envelope titled Quest Number 1. And then that brings us to quest number 1. And I do this for 2 reasons. I love having almost like a prologue. Think of it like a book, right? You start the prologue and then you turn to chapter 1. And now you're like, oh, all right, chapter 1. I'm ready to enter this world. It's the same thing with an adventure, right? The prologue is just like the nitty gritty. Wear a mask. Don't worry about paying for stuff. It's going to last all day. Be aware of the weather, blah, blah, blah. Chapter 1. Let's begin. It's just kind of a nice little thing. It also goes with Disneyland, right? You go to Disneyland, you park, you take the trolley or whatever it is. It's literally meant to have you like go in this cave and you come out and you're at Disneyland, right? You've entered another world. So that's kind of the idea. So this one reads, Relic number 1, the blanket of supreme comfort. Every adventure starts with humble beginnings. Across the street from this tavern, there is a nature path with a rat problem. Find and collect 6 rats, and then you'll have your next instructions, plus an item upgrade. And so that heads us to... Yep. Let's make sure... The rats. So right across the street from his home and like to the right, there was this cool little like maybe 20-meter nature path. And the moment I saw it, I was like, absolutely gonna have this play a part because it's beautiful and it's simple and it's easy. And when you start an adventure, oh my gosh, you need to start easy, especially when you've blindsided somebody with something. And so there were these little rats. They were just little, there were 6 of them. They were rubber. They were about this big. And they were just kind of hidden along the way. This was a gentleman, his wife. They had a young teen daughter. I think she was like early teens. And then a son who was like 7 or 8, I believe. And so I wanted to make this something where like the kids were going to be jazzed and they could run out and they could do this. And that's what they did. And then they found all the rats. And then at the bottom of the rats was basically a little message. And they actually, this took them a second just because it seems easy. Check side fence. But if you mess them up and you all of a sudden could be like, DECK spells out deck, that could mean something, right? So there's a little bit of challenge, but it's frankly just very, very simple, and they beat it pretty quickly. And then when they checked the side fence, there was something hanging on that little post. Inside of that was a message that said the tavern is safer now. And you got to remember with this whole thing, the goal was to create like the D&D experience, right? Everywhere they went, it was like, if you ever played World of Warcraft, like the first thing you have to do is kill 10 boars, right? Or anytime you do anything, there's always like Skyrim, there's always rats in the basement. It's always rats. And so I wanted to do that. But this basically says the tavern is a safer place now. As a token of appreciation, I've upgraded your D20 of Destiny, which I'll show you next scene. This one should roll better outside. Now it's time for your party to hop in your wagon car and travel north into the woods. Put in bold. The humans inside are kind and will offer you elixir of energy. However, there will be a twist. When you arrive, tell them we're looking for the relic. So I'm actually going to come back to this one. We can do this. Is the new D20 of Destiny. It was like a fist-sized die. Honestly, I wanted to have this one all along, but I needed to get that package sent to him as quickly as possible the moment we got matched. Just in case this wasn't something that he wanted, I wanted time to pivot and change it up. But I always wanted to have this. I just couldn't find this anywhere easily available in a day. But if it's Seattle and he's like outside, he's gonna be out in the rain. I don't want him rolling a big plush die. I'd rather have him roll like an actual acrylic one. But to head back here, this is sending him and his family out to somewhere driving. And so as you see, there's kind of 3 pieces to this. There's into the woods, which at first you're like, into the woods, I don't know what that means. It's obviously put in bold, which if you Googled it, you'd find the Woods Coffee. There's 2 Woods Coffees. One was east and one was north. And so that's what was really important that I said north into the woods. The elixir of energy was just kind of like an extra, like, perfect. It is definitely the Woods Coffee. Like, what else could it be? And then just in case, they had a passphrase to give the employees at this coffee place that said, we're looking for the relic. Got the die. The kid actually rolled that. That was the first roll, was a nat 1. And so he actually sent a picture and texted it to me. And so I created a little bit of flavor text that said, on the way to the wagon, your son trips and falls. Because he's the last one in the wagon, he has to sit in the back in complete silence. And so he told his son, who played along beautifully. His son was hilarious and rolled horribly during this whole thing. And then there he is sitting like in the very back of this car. It was pretty funny. The kid had a blast. Then they head to the Woods Coffee. They got there. The people at Woods Coffee, the baristas were wonderful. They were amazing. They were ready for that. I'd put a card down already. They handed over the envelope and they basically said, everything's been covered, order whatever you want, except each one of you needs to roll the D20 of Destiny. And highest to lowest, whatever or drink you order, you get a large and then like a medium and then a small and then like a shot glass full, right? Like a kiddie size. So it's kind of this fun way to really introduce RNG in the game with no real meaning to the game, but it's super fun with them as they're rolling like, oh my God, I want an XL coffee versus like nothing. So that was, it was quite fun. And then this was what they got. Basically said, now that you have your elixir of energy, you're unstoppable. You learn from the humans in the woods that the relic you seek is with the ferryman, a benevolent immortal who assists adventurers on their quests. Travel to Olympic Beach in Edmonds. You'll find him sitting on a bench with a large blue chest. I love to have envelopes tell everything, because then when I'm working with businesses like this. They're a coffee shop. They have tons of people coming in the drive-through. They have lots of things going on. I want to give them as little as possible to have to worry about. And so it's really just like passphrase, card, make them roll, give them the envelope. You don't have to tell them anything. It's all there. It's all in writing. Easy peasy. So then headed out to the Ferryman. The Ferryman is a good friend of mine, Jerome Vernich. He co-founded a company called Cat and Canary. They do like kind of immersive things up in Seattle. They were kind of just getting going when the pandemic hit, so thanks pandemic. But definitely worth checking out. They do some really cool things. They've done like pop-up speakeasies, and they also had a really fun heist adventure. But I called him up and I was like, hey, can you please help me with this day? I can't pay you because I'm spending a ton of money on it anyway. And he was like, oh yeah, of course. So he's a wonderful human being who I owe big time. But he was there, and he is a trained theater actor. And so my big thing when I work with actors is I give them very little, like they need to get the chest, and that's all. You could do whatever else you want. This is what it says, right? He's a benevolent person. He does this. So he created this whole story. He had a great conversation with them. And then he gave them the chest. And inside of it had the first relic, which was also kind of one of my gifts to him. That was the whole thing, is each relic was a gift. And as you'll probably start to notice, this was the blanket of supreme comfort. All the relics had something to do with like making his home more comfy, because in a pandemic you're home a lot. So like it all tied together, right? Restoring the tavern, D&D, making the home more comfy, honoring his father. So this is the blanket of supreme comfort. Legend says Stanley wrestled a magical bear for 24 hours. After his victory, the bear shed his coat as a prize, add plus 15 to coziness to any sofa it adorns. He ended up taking a great photo of like his kid with this super, super soft blanket. And then after that, I had the, you've acquired your first relic, head back to the tavern for your next quest. Your next quest will be waiting there, regroup, then check your mailbox. One thing to note, if you look, you'll see this flavor text is written on different paper than the actual instructions. And that was kind of by choice. There's a lot of notes flying around, and anything you can do to help differentiate stuff really helps. And it's probably not something he even noticed, but it's just a way where like all of the flavor text was on this and all of the actual instructions were on this. And it's just kind of a great way just to further differentiate stuff. Letting him know that this doesn't, like, you don't need to, like, this doesn't have any important, there's no clues hidden in here. It's just like a fun thing that comes with all of them. One of the other things I did here is very early on, I sent them back home, right? They hit the Woods Coffee, they hit this beach, everything was like 10 minutes drive away, and then sent home to find something in the mailbox. And I do this especially when I'm dealing with kids, because like sometimes you just have to go home. You're like, oh God, we forgot to grab my wallet, right? Like I forgot to do this. Usually at this point they have to head home anyway. And maybe they realize like, okay, I'm going to change my shoes because I thought I wanted to wear boots, but I hadn't worn these in 3 months and I need to break them in again. So it's just kind of a way to get them back home just in case they need to go in and grab something else, but they don't have to. So after this, they had to find Schrodinger's tin. And this is very hard to see, but it says the tin is well hidden. You must decode a message to find it and then decode another to acquire. Travel to this address. There you'll find a statue commemorating the magical bear Stanley wrestled. Use this statue to decipher the location. Note, start beneath the date. You will, when you arrive, tell them we're here for the relic. What you'll see is this is a book Ottendorf cipher. Also my favorite gambit to use ever. Anyone that's seen National Treasure, it's the cipher they use on the back of the Declaration of Independence. I love using that, and I love using plaques, and this worked perfectly because then we also had like a bear statue, which just flavor-wise, we just talked about him wrestling the bear. This is a statue commemorating the bear. This just comes with scouting, just driving around finding stuff. And then with the statue, you'll see there was the date, and then he starts down there. And the nice thing about an Ottendorf cipher or a book cipher is it's just number dash number dash number, where the first number's the line, second's the word, third's the letter. It's something where you, even if you're not quite sure how it works, you can start to gauge it. And then I was always there as help, but they absolutely rocked it. And they got the, go to Wild Mountain Cafe. And then to kind of bring it back forth, when you arrive, tell them we're here for the relic. So it helps, give them instruction without too much all at once, but then they just know what to do. And so they headed to Wild Mountain Cafe, which was awesome. It was currently not accepting anybody to dine, but it did have a little outdoor front patio, and they're like, we will set up one patio kind of on the outside. We'll keep it all, because outside patio dining was totally okay to have at that point in time. But they just didn't have it because they had like a very small patio and they focused on pickup and drop off. So thank you, Wild Mountain, for playing ball. When they arrived, they basically had this one seat. They had a Knight's Tour, in this case, King's Tour puzzle, which if you look on my YouTube channel, I talked about how it works, and I also talked a little bit further in depth about it. But essentially, they move that king on the chessboard just like a king would move any direction diagonally, and they figure out what the message is. And this is a great, great, great puzzle to do during lunch because it takes a little while, but at no point is it ever like really frustrating because it gets easier as you go. Because every single time you get a letter, you're never going to use that letter again. And so it cuts off the amount of options, and it just gets easier and easier and easier and easier as you go. But it definitely takes a little bit of time. In this case, just a little bit of information, move the king across the board to decode the passphrase. You'll give your server, you will use every square only once. King starts on E8 equals L. And I did this because just in case, like, they bumped it or it got moved or something, you want to make sure that you have that, because just putting a piece on a chessboard, lots and lots of things can happen before they finally get it. And then finally, he got it. Legends tell that Schrodinger's tin is simultaneously here and also not here. So they told that to the server, and they got Schrodinger's tin. And the joke here, which actually me and my brother were kind of well aware, but apparently there are a lot of people that are not, is this kind of tin, the Danish butter cookie tin, is famous for like always being at grandma's house, and you find it and you open it and then it's sewing supplies. It's always sewing supplies. And you're like, come on. I actually saw a really funny video where somebody had like ripped their pants. It was like a TikTok video. And they like opened up a drawer and they found that tin and they opened it up and there was cookies in there. He's like, Ma, I thought this was supposed to be sewing supplies. So it was just kind of a fun little joke. It plays with the flavor text of like, Schrodinger's tin, in that old adage of like, it's simultaneously dead and alive, right? But this is simultaneously cookies and sewing supplies until you open it. And yeah. And then here's the flavors text, right? It said that Stanley won this relic in a battle of wits with an old witch. When someone opens the tin, there's a 50-50 chance that it contains delicious cookies or sewing supplies. Just funny. In this case, he actually had some flavor text, just like, damn, cookies. I was hoping for sewing supplies, but I'm sure he's got time to put them in there now. And then we add to the next one, right? Well done. You found the sometimes delicious second relic. Check the bottom of the tin for your next quest. And then this is on the bottom. And this was another one of those just like segmenting off, like this chapter is done. We're now on chapter 3, right? We're now on quest number 3. Just because I don't like to give an envelope stuffed with a ton of pages or instructions all at once. I'd rather give 2 or 3 envelopes. So it's like, cool, we've finished this envelope. This is done. Now let's start the next thing. And now we head to the Uncommon Cottage. So relic number 3, the Flame of Everlasting Eye Rolls. This one was so great. It's rumored that the flame is currently housed in the Uncommon Cottage. Tell the shopkeep I'm looking for the flame. You might have to do her a favor. Same thing as before, right? The Uncommon Cottage, something that they just Google, is in bold. And so if you just put in Google Maps, Uncommon Cottage, you were going to find it because it was like 5-10 minutes away. How's everybody doing? Anybody falling asleep yet? I feel like I'm a professor just trying to do a class. Okay. This woman, oh my God, was the greatest human being I've ever met. She was hilarious and excited and just incredible. And this was the weekend before Christmas. So like, bless her for taking the most busy shopping weekend of the year during a global pandemic and being a part of this. But she was like, I love tabletop games. This is great. So check out the Uncommon Cottage. I will put the link to her in the notes so you can see that. But she was amazing. Anyway, she got there, dropped everything, and basically said, I have what you need, the Flame of Everlasting Eye Rolls, but first, you need to do a favor for me. And so she handed this little favor instructions, and it basically said the infamous Fremont troll stole a pouch full of gems. You'll find it. You'll find him in his cave. P.S. The pin of warding will turn him to stone. And then he had this little pin that I bought there too, which is just like a little, hexes, happiness, etc., etc. And so that sent. Oh, I wonder if this is the man himself. I will have to guess he might be. So then that sent to the Fremont Troll. Anybody that's ever seen 10 Things I Hate About You, this troll was made famous there. If you ever head to Seattle, Washington, it's up in the Ballard, Fremont area. It's pretty cool. Sometimes there's a little bit of garbage around it, but c'est la vie. So Fremont Troll, they had a little bit of trouble because the person that I hired to hide this hid them pretty well. But they eventually found the pouch full of gems, which is just these fun little acrylic gems. You can definitely get them anywhere, or you can get them on Amazon for not too much money. There's a lot of uses for them, especially in large group games where maybe they need to collect 10 things. You can get 10 gems. But they also just add. You talked about adding presentation and flavor. They're just cool. They headed back to the Uncommon Cottage and then gave them this. And then they had the candle. And then the next quest, they also actually had some socks because when they went to the troll, I came in to thank her. And she was like, oh, yeah, they loved it. They're going to come back. They're going to buy these socks. And I was like, let me buy the socks. Because how cool of an experience is it if you're on this adventure, you pick out these socks, you leave for 10 minutes and you come back and you're like, compliments to the architect. They've been paid for. It's just it's a cool experience. And, if you have the opportunity, whatever, what's $10 extra to make this experience spectacular? And it also gives that, sense of, oh my God, everything, where is he? He's everywhere. How did he know? How did this happen? Et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just, adding that extra experience. It's really fun. The Flame of Everlasting Eye Rolls. Let me see if I think I have a picture of... Yeah, so it's literally called Nonstop Dad Jokes, more like Nonstop Rad Jokes. And a little background is when you sign up for the Reddit Secret Santa. Thank you, Scott. We need to talk about your adventure soon. When you sign up for Reddit Secret Santa, you have to link your Reddit profile. And so the whole shtick is you stalk them, right? You just look at what they've commented on Reddit and you try to send them a gift you think they'll like. Okay, I'm trying to be nice. I know, it took you a little while, and that is kind of just a mix of everything, right? That was the first one that really gave you guys some trouble. You, for the most part, crushed it, but yeah, they did need to do a dice roll, and this is a tricky thing, right? I'll scoot back really quickly to the actual troll. What I had my agent do is I need you to hide this. It needs to be well hidden enough that a random person isn't going to find it because there are people there that are taking pictures and et cetera, et cetera. And, but it can't be too well hidden. And then when you do, I need you to take a picture and then scoot back and take another picture and scoot back and take another picture and then take a video, right? And then text those to me. So then when my giftee, if he got stumped, which they did a little bit, he could roll and I could send them a picture or a hint. It's under his left hand, right? Look for the VW Beetle, look for the wheel. Depending on how he rolled, I could give him a clearer or more vague description. And the nice thing about this adventure was since there were no really hard set deadlines after their lunch reservation, it didn't matter if it took him 30 minutes or 10 minutes because everything just kind of moved along. So you do have to be aware of that as a little caveat. If you're building something that's going to end with a surprise party or a proposal with a photographer, you've got to be money on the time. And so you can't the difference between 10 minutes and 30 minutes, 20 minutes is oh God, the sun's already down. So that was another thing too. They were ahead of schedule. They were doing great. Let them struggle. It makes it all the better when they finally find it. But to head back, to go back, his most popular post on Reddit was actually about his father passing away, and it was in either the joke subreddit or the dad joke subreddit. And he said, "My dad." Oh yeah, that's basically it. If you roll a nat 1, you might see the stone troll. And Nat 20 is just like literally like here's a video of the the gems and where they are. But sorry to scoot back, I'm jumping all over the place because the comment section is just great. The his biggest post, his most popular post he'd ever done was basically like, my father passed away. This was his favorite joke. And so that was really, really important to me, that like this is in honor of his dad Stanley. So it needed to be like a dad joke, right? Like an eye rolling joke, because that's what dads do, right? You're like, oh God, dad, that joke is terrible. And so when I went into the Uncommon Cottage and I found this candle, I was like, oh my God, now I need to see, like, can I use the Uncommon Cottage? Because of the namesake, it's very like high fantasy D&D. You stumble upon the Uncommon Cottage with this amazing, witch inside who knows magic. And so it just worked out so well. And I worked with the owner to see what she wanted. And she was so into it. That's why I could get away with them arriving once, her giving them a fetch quest, coming back and giving the stones, and then getting the candle. One thing I didn't add in the photos is his son really wanted those acrylic gems because, like, why wouldn't he? And one of the things I told her, which I tell everybody, is like, you have complete autonomy to do whatever you want to make this fun. I'm not going to say like, no, you have to keep the stones from this 8-year-old kid who wants them. Like, no, if they want it, like, you figure out a way. So she did a whole thing where we roll over the stones, and that poor kid just could not roll to save his life. He kept rolling really poorly. And then she literally cast a spell to return back time and made him spin around, and she cast it again and again, and he finally rolled, and she gave him the bag of gems, and it was great. She was just wonderful. And so then this was like the final little thing. Smells hilarious. One more to go before the grand relic. And so then that heads to, let's see if I'm in the right thing here. Yes, okay. I don't know where I am. So relic number 4 is the Journal of Manifestation. Sure, yeah. The elusive journal is rumored to be housed in many a library, but it's actually located in the basement of Ophelia's books. Once there, find the ivory bust of a regal man, follow his gaze to the painter, then follow the painter's gaze to something that doesn't fit. One other little thing, going back into just great acting, Jerome from Cat and Canary, he was aware of the whole thing, and he actually gave them, is Ophelia from Hamlet? I think it's Hamlet, I should know this. Basically, he gave a foreshadowing thing that he would see them again, and it would have to do this bookstore. But I took a little video of the gambit that I used in Ophelia's book, so you can check it out right here. Sorry, trying to eat a piece of chocolate while I have a little bit of time on Tony's Chocolate. Hashtag not a sponsor, but oh my God, somebody tweeted them because I feel like I call them out enough with the, insane audience I have. They get to this book, and that's what I used. I called it a Sightline Gambit. And it's basically very akin to Men in Black. There is a video on my YouTube channel where I talk a little bit about it, but it's like everything's looking at everything else, right? It's like that famous scene in Men in Black 2 where he's at the pizza shop and he's like, this guy's pointing at this and this pointing at this. And when it's really just like a key's hanging right there. But it's a fun gambit. It's a cool experience. So they find this hollowed out book and inside it's empty. And it says, the journal is mine. Sincerely, the Butterfly King. And this was an interesting part because that's kind of where it ended, right? He didn't know what to do, and it was a little bit of like, I just wanted to see what would happen. The best part about the Reddit Secret Santa is it's a way for me to beta test things because, like, I'm not getting paid, whatever. Something goes wrong, like, it's still fun, right? Versus somebody that's, like, doing a marriage proposal. And so I just wanted to see what would happen, like, if it just didn't have any further instruction, what they would do. So he rolled a 17, and I messaged him something along the lines of, like, leave the bookstore and, your next information will present itself. So they leave the bookstore, and the ferryman's waiting again. And that was basically like the triggering event was for them leaving the bookstore, was when he would be right there. And he basically, since he's like the benevolent, omnipotent, God helping adventurers along their way, he gave them the next instructions. And this was a stealth mission. I wanted to try to do a bunch of the RPG type of tropes, right? And there's always a rogue, right? You always have a rogue on your team who always wants to try to sneak by or backstab somebody. So this was the stealth mission. And it was the Butterfly King is a master thief, but only so at hiding his loot. Here's how you get the journal back. Travel to Gasworks Park. His lair is in the covered area on the east side, just north of the playground. The journal is in a small, 1 foot wide, brown cargo satchel. Just grab the entire bag. You'll see it hanging from one of the machines on the southeast side. The king is easy to spot. He has a large flower tattoo on his head with a butterfly on his right temple. He always walks clockwise around his lair. You should have an opening. There we go. You should have an opening. Right after he passes the bag. However, every 20 seconds, he'll roll a check. If he rolls a 15 to 20, he'll beeline back to his bag. Grab the bag and get back to the tavern. Hart the ferryman. So this was kind of a fun thing, right? I wanted to make it not super easy because it could be, but I also don't want to make it too difficult. But adding that kind of extra RNG that he just had a little die and he just rolled it and looked at it. And if it was 14 or lower, he just kept going. If it was 15 to 20, he would just turn and head straight back to the bag and then go again. And so it's kind of a way just to add, like, you have to scout him and watch him in the shadows. It was so interesting. I searched high and low to try to find a place to do this, and I really, really, really wanted to try to find an indoor location, a restaurant that had just been closed down, or like a theater, because I'd used theaters before, and nobody could get back to me because my timeline was like half a week to try to get this thing done. But Gasworks Park's amazing. And so we did it outside, and here is the Butterfly King just doing a quick lap. Anyway, super nice guy. Looks menacing because like head tattoos do that. But no, greatest guy in the world. Is actually one of my best friends, my roommate. He helped me found my business, and he has quite a quite a successful business as well. This is great. Yeah, got so many weird looks at Gasworks. That's the other fun thing about doing these things out in the open. There's just people around. So Jeremiah, i.e. the Butterfly King, kind of went to some nearby people and was like, "Hey, just FYI. We're doing a fun treasure scavenger hunt game. Family's going to come. They're going to steal this bag. I'm going to be like, hey, don't worry about it. Don't call the police." It's really just a matter, like most of the time, if you're in a public place and you're like, "I'm doing this fun thing. I'm leaving this treasure chest. Please don't mess with it." Everyone's like, "Oh my God." And then they kind of scoot back and they just want to watch because like it's a cool thing to watch this thing happen. So yeah, a lot of people were primed and they definitely, they were ready to watch it happen. So they got the bag, which was hanging, and inside was the Journal of Manifestation. And it says, "I left the key back at Stanley's Tavern from the ferryman." This is kind of like a wizard did it, right? Like, why would the ferryman have the key and not the Butterfly King? But whatever. The reason behind this was I needed them to open this book at home at their specific place, because I didn't want to kind of spoil the surprise or spoil the extra things. So they get home and key's waiting, just hanging on the door, the front doorknob. They caught me on their ring little doorbell thing, placing the key there. And so they placed that key and they opened it up and it said Journal of Manifestation. Once again, it's like flavor text. "This is a gift from the High Artificer," which is a play character type in D&D. It was my character when I played D&D. And friend of Stanley. He said that when you write your wishes and dreams inside, the positive ones will come true. Kind of like manifestation. Stanley had all he needed with a great family like yours, so he used it as a guest book. I don't know. I thought that was fun. Teared me up a little bit. Just kind of, like he had everything he needed with a great family. And so it said, "Gather your party and the 4 relics in the middle of the tavern. Together speak the following incantation. In honor of Stanley the Great, we conclude this adventure." And then break the seal. And I basically just taped 2 pages together. He'd actually mentioned that he always carried a knife on him, so it worked even better. Because he talked about like opening wax sealed envelopes with a knife. And so they gathered all the items and they broke the seal. And it said, head to the path across from Stanley's Tavern. Good thing you took care of that rat problem. The grand relic awaits. And now I'll play a video of the grand relic.
This is really exciting.
Imagine if it's
Everyone open it.
imagine if it's a box.
Oh my god!
Oh, it was so good. So the grand relic was like a redone shot of his late father. Man, that was so much fun to do. I used my favorite chest, which you normally see behind me in the videos, which is like a 17th century like women's clothing trunk, but it's like a straight up treasure chest. That's the best part about doing adventures close. I can use all the items I have, right? I can't fly that chest to Hawaii. I mean, I guess I could, but oh, that'd be awful. And, bought a nice frame. So there are... And most people are pretty familiar with the websites where it's like, oh, you can like turn your pet into like a knight or like Han Solo or something like that. They also have ones for humans. And so really early on, I was like, this has got to be it. Like, I've got to do something to honor his dad. Very early on, I was like, I need a picture of your dad. He was like, okay, fine. And so that was really important to me. Like, this would be like the final relic, was like, something to bring it all full circle, honor his late father. I think I have just like a slightly, this is the portrait of his dad, which is just like a photo I grabbed from Facebook. That they did a great job. Funny enough, the company that did this was like, oh yeah, it'll be, a couple weeks before it arrives, because this is like, a week before no, a week before sorry, I'm chat asked some things. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Walking through the trail and gradually hearing the chest get louder was pretty intense. Yeah, I basically had a chest. I had a speaker, just like one of those like simple portable speakers. I had my cell phone playing an epic song. The group is called Two Steps from Hell. They make like movie trailer music. And it was tricky because they actually got home and my giftee's wife had to go take care, handle something with I think her parents were down the street. And so they had to like pause everything. But my phone was in the chest. So I was like, and I'm trying to like stay far away. And it's all this back and forth. So I had basically just like LED lights in the chest lighting it up, a speaker, because music just adds so much more to everything. I did early on, I had a D&D style one where it ended with a battle because these two guys did LARPing. And so of course you have to have like this epic music playing because music makes everything. So it's definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, but the portrait was great. The portrait company actually said, like, okay, cool, it'll be here in like, 3 to 4 weeks. And I was like, I need this to get here now. And so they were nice enough to send me the PDF. And then it was a matter of just calling like every print shop in Seattle to be like, I need you to give me like an 11 by 14 or a 14 by 21 PDF of this. Can you do it soon? And most places are like, no, like, we could do it in 2 weeks. But one place was like, yes, we can. And I was like, oh my God, they got the best 5-star review of their lives. So picked it up, taped it to the inside of this frame. And that was it. We got this great frame. It was a great finale. And then went and hung out with them in their garage a little bit just to debrief. Awesome family. Now somebody who I kind of consider a friend. I'm excited. I'm probably going to be moving up to Seattle where he lives. And we already talked about hitting a beer fest when everything opens back up again. He gave me a beer that he brewed, which was delicious, like actually really good, and a gift card, which is like, you don't give your Santa things, you receive from them. So all in all, it was really, really spectacular. It might be my favorite adventure. Don't tell some of the other adventures that I've done. I just, I absolutely loved it, and it was great. So feel free to ask me any questions regarding that adventure. I have a couple, thank you so much, Chris. I have a couple questions that were asked beforehand, and I saw a question on Reddit pop up right before I started that I couldn't get here. So feel free to ask me any questions about this exact adventure, or ask me questions about just adventures in general, and then I will wrap things up for the next one. So really quickly. Oh, yeah. Got to make a. Oof, this is a little bit big. Post pandemic, you got to make yourself a commercial. Yes, I have footage. If you go on my website, constructedadventures.com, the first thing that pops up is kind of a little bit of a first person footage of a lot of cool things that I've done. Another one was. Oh, this is great. Okay. When scouting a location for a hunt, what things/locations/businesses are you looking for, and what comes from the client's likes and dislikes? So I'll send a survey, and one of the survey questions is, are there any locations of meaning? A really easy, like when it's a marriage proposal, oh, we got some spots, right? We're going to have like first kiss, like where first said I love you, Valentine's, like meaningful spots. But sometimes we don't have that, right? Sometimes it's, in the case of this adventure, I wanted places that fit with the D&D theme, which is why I went with like the woods. I kind of wanted to send them to the beach, which is why I had that area, because it was just a nice little area. Wild Mountain Cafe, you're going down to the Wild Mountain. The Uncommon Cottage, right? Gasworks Park was even a little bit steampunky, where D&D's kind of gone in that direction with like the Artificer and stuff like that. So that played a big role, but it also has to be cool. I hate the idea of like sending somebody to like a Denny's or a McDonald's. Not that there might not be a time and place for that, but you can always find like a mom and pop restaurant who A, deserves the money more, and B, is much more likely to like go above and beyond. Because, they get featured in this type of stuff. Sometimes the Reddit ones go viral, and there's just lots. And so when I'm scouting for locations for a hunt, I'm trying to lock down what I call anchor points. And these are basically like must stop points. And then there's subsidiary ones, right? Like anchor points were Wild Mountain Cafe. A not necessarily super crucial point was the bear beforehand, right? Because they could have just gone straight from home to the cafe, but it was there to give a little bit of time and space for me and the people I'm working with to go set up things later. So I'm looking for cool experiences, things that are meaningful, places that just have options. You go into cities and there are some awesome, like, you go to New York and you're thinking, okay, Central Park, got to be something there, right? Strawberry Fields. There's definitely history and plaques. Different districts downtown. I know like San Francisco, you get toward the water and there's like a big clock tower and there's trolleys that are going and there's just like, oh, here's a bronze plaque about the fire that happened in 19 whatever. Like I could use this. So it's a matter of just getting a feel for the flow of how they go. Using my Google Maps is really useful. Oftentimes with consultation clients, I'm like, we're just going to throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. Just chuck every possible thing on a dock. We'll put it on a Google map. Oh, cool. That one's an hour away. We're not going to do that because now we have to figure out how to get them there and back. And so it's just trying to figure out that flow. All right. I heard a lot more questions. All right. What'd you get for? I'm guessing, what did I get from my Secret Santa? My gift for my Secret Santa. Oh, yeah. Here's from. There we go. My gift from my Secret Santa was actually, let me think through. Oh God, it was so thoughtful. So I got a case of Mike and Ike's, which I'd been like, please don't give me candy. COVID's making me squishy. They gave me a case of Mike and Ike's, which are my favorite candy. Don't at me. Mike and Ike's are awesome. They gave me this really gorgeous puzzle book, really well designed puzzle book. They gave me a map, like a ye old map of Final Fantasy VII, of like the world map, but it looked like it was like a ye olden days map. And then like a little 3D printed blue chocobo, because blue's my favorite color. Chocobos from Final Fantasy VII. It goes like up on my, if you look at my desk, I got lots of shelves and trinkets and cool just things. And so I talk about how like, I don't like having a lot of stuff, but if you do get me something, puzzle stuff is great. And then stuff that I could hang on my wall or put there. And so I got some really thoughtful things. It's Secret Santa is just great. Oh yes, the beer he gave me was an oak and whiskey infused maple Baltic porter. I'm gonna want more of those, so please don't have already tapped out everything. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. It's like go into the woods, see a bear. Thank you guys for joining my gifties coming out on this. I just texted him today being like, hey, I'm going to be talking about this in a live stream if you're interested. Ooh. Oh, this is so great. Oh, Jeremiah, the Butterfly King himself, teeing me up. You are the best. Shout out to Our Constructed Adventures, which kind of blew up recently when I linked it into like an Ask Reddit thread about like fun, small subreddits. There are a lot of cool people doing recaps. Chris BK actually has done some awesome ones, so it's worth checking out his. He does some great ones. Most recently, there was the NSFW Valentine's Day themed one that I thought was incredible, raunchy and just creative and just great. So that's probably the most recent favorite one I can think of. There was a woman that did one for her kids that was like a Mom's Gone Mad, and the kids got home from school because like school's on hybrid, so you're like at school twice, 2 days a week or something. And mom had cut the power. And like there was this whole thing about like mom had gone mad and had this bag full of stuff. And I thought that was so creative because like when you're thinking about how are you going to build an adventure, you have to start at the ending. What's the point? What's the purpose? And usually the purpose is like open this chest and get a gift or like find your surprise party in like a fun different way. But having like mom's gone mad where, you needed to like figure out how to get the power back on. It's just such a cool idea. So head over to Constructed Adventures, Our Constructed Adventures. It's quite fun. Oh, interesting that you're in, I don't know if you're in Tucson, Arizona, because I currently am in Tucson, Arizona. So feel free to message me if you want to go grab like a socially distanced beer and chat adventures. I'm always down. Let's see if there's anything else. Lots of Mike and Ike's. Okay. This is very wrong, very incorrect, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Chris, thank you so much. Doing another recap next week. Got my nephew coming over. Yeah, Chris, you do, if I remember correctly, you do a lot because you have, I think, 2 kids, 8 and 10, maybe. Sometimes I forget, my wires get crossed on who wrote what adventure. But I love your stuff. It's cool because you've done a few now and it feels like you're getting better, right? As you like learn things, it's not only just getting better at building adventures, but your players, right? The kids get better too as you get to know like their tendencies and how good they are. That's kind of the tricky thing is like I do an adventure and more than likely I'll never do an adventure for them again, except for there's a family I do one for usually every January in Hawaii. I'm hoping we go back to that because I would like to go back to Hawaii, please. But it was really fun building the first one for them. And then the second one was like, okay, I know you know this. So now we're going to level 2 and we're going to make it harder and harder and harder. And so that was an absolute blast. So that, I think, is all I've got for you regarding, my live stream. Oh yeah, sorry, I got more in here. I love being able to pop these things up here and yell at you guys for liking Red Hots. Ugh, who likes Red Hots? Oh, I did have one more question on Reddit. Let me pop this up real quick. Have you ever done a puzzled pint? Just found out about them, but I haven't gone on one since they haven't restarted after Code in My City. I don't know what that is. What other creators on YouTube do you recommend? I follow you, the Puzzled Maker. I saw him in here. Playful Technology and Legacy Escape Box. It sounds bad. I don't follow any other people on YouTube that I'm aware of, besides the ones he actually mentioned. It's tricky. And it might just be I need to get better, but a lot of the people that I really, really follow aren't super active on social media. It's like Tommy Honton doesn't have social media. I'm going to actually be bringing him in next week to talk about some of the incredible things he's done. He's basically the guy who I consider my mentor. So if you want to like learn the things that I learned from somebody else, I'll bring him in. But I don't. I'm trying to think of other people. I follow Rita Orlov from Post Curious because I consider her a friend now, and Society of Curiosities. They actually, and I'm wondering if that's the case. I don't know what a puzzle pint is, but that's assumption that it's like a trivia night, but for puzzles. But yeah, as far as people that I follow, I love Post Curious. Society of Curiosities, kind of like consider like colleagues and friends. Interviewed Scarlet Envelope. They do some cool things, the ladies up in Canada. But yeah, I can't get over how brilliant I think Rita Orlov is from Post Curious. And it's just, she does kind of the things that I love doing. except it's for like a box, like a puzzle box, right? Puzzle Tales, where she combines just really brilliant design with beautiful art and the feel of everything. It's just like you can tell that she's put so much thought into it, and it shows because people love the stuff she does. And it's the same thing with the Society of Curiosities. Theirs is more of a monthly, like a subscription, more subscription than a just like a box that you get, a one-time thing. But I just love the treasure hunt aspect. There's just something about like, oh, we've got somebody sailing in a ship to this part of the island and you need to tell them where to go. And like, it's just such a fun experience. So yeah, if nobody has any other questions, I will let you guys go. I'm going to keep doing my weekly office hours. I would love to have you tell other people about it. It's going to be a mix of me interviewing people. It's going to be a mix of me answering questions. I'll probably always answer questions. And then I'm going to actually feature some of the adventures I see on Constructed Adventures. Once I return home, whenever I feel like it, I will probably do a couple Let's Plays where I play puzzle games like Professor Layton's or just Eyes of Aria, Myst, those types of games. And we can do the puzzles together and we can chat about if they have like potential real world application, right? Because there are some puzzles where it's like, gonna write this down because I can use it. And then there's others that, don't. Ooh, one more from Mike Giftee. The boy, bring me the boy. It seems very like Homer Simpson and or God of War 3. Surprising. Like, the boy, bring me the boy. What's the question? Okay. What was my favorite part when I was planning the whole adventure? I think my favorite part was after I committed to doing it like high fantasy D&D style, was like trying to cram as much like D&D stuff as possible with like magic relics and items, and like the blanket was going to happen. But I remember I was just like buying food at Costco and I saw the Danish butter cookie tin and I was like, oh my God, Schrodinger's tin. Like, it's gotta happen. And then when I went to the Uncommon Cottage and I was just like, man, I really want to use the Uncommon Cottage. And then I looked at the candles and I was like, oh my God, dad jokes. So like those moments of, those moments of finding a thing that just like worked, right? And then getting the stealth mission. The stealth mission was just so cool and so much fun. And I love trying to do like, it's not a puzzle. I mean, I guess it could be considered a puzzle, but it's more of just like, your heart's beating, you see the guy and you have to steal something. Like, how often do you get a chance to like steal something and it's like, not only is it okay, but it's encouraged. Okay, this is just a shame that you haven't eaten those cookies. We are well into February and it's Girl Scout cookie season. And like, so those are the cookies you're going to be eating next. So eat the cookies or I'll just eat them when I come, visit you guys eventually. All right, everybody, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate people tuning in for this. If you are watching this retroactively, like I said, I try to do this most Wednesdays. I will definitely be posting on Reddit, and I'll tweet out as well. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's ConstructedADV or constructed_ADV. I'm not active on Facebook because I think Facebook is an evil garbage company. I do have an Instagram, which I know is kind of counterintuitive to the whole Facebook thing, but like, come on, we're taking this one step at a time. But subreddit is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you do want to message me, you can email me, you can find it on my website, or you can message me on Instagram, or you can make a post on my subreddit. I always like questions and discussions and whatnot. And you can also post in the comments if you want to see me do a specific video talking about the philosophy of different reasons behind different things, or talking about, a specific gambit. Like the most recent one I did was hiding a message on the side of a deck of cards. That's kind of a cool experience. And you can add that into any secret agent themed or Casino Royale or just card themed adventure. But until next time, everybody, happy adventuring.